Hello, my name is Erik and I'm currently solo developing Winter Utopia, a side-scroller action-adventure game where you level backwards. And today I want to talk about movement. I'm very happy with the game feel of the movement currently, but I wanted to introduce a mechanic in a similar vein as the reload mechanic in Gears of War, meaning I wanted to gamify and make fun something that normally is just a means to an end. In most FPS games, reloading is just a simple button press to refill a resource, but in Gears of War, it's a little micro game that can give a skilled player an advantage. With that in mind, I wanted to deepen my movement mechanics a little bit, with a few restrictions to keep in mind. No new animations. The mechanic should give good players an advantage, but be optional for completing the game, meaning the player should never be required to perform it in order to progress the main game. Big focus on game feel. Skill-based, not luck-based. Oh, and as an aside, please excuse all the placeholder programmer art. I will make the game pretty in due time, but for now I'm just focusing on the programming aspect. Anyway, here's what I came up with. This is what it looked like in the beginning. Just a basic jump and a double jump. I was inspired by the triple jump mechanic in Super Mario 64 and wanted something similar. But instead of ending in that little ta-da pose, you could keep your bounce going indefinitely if you're skilled enough. Here's the first iteration. The bounce was simple enough to implement. Every time the player hits the jump button just when they land, they get launched higher into the air. And this can be repeated indefinitely, but the jump height only increases the first 5 bounces. But since the camera doesn't zoom out, the player has a hard time seeing where they're going to land, and that's no good in a side-scroller. Now we have implemented an incremental zoom function that zooms out more the higher the player jumps. It helps, but the jerky way the camera zooms out is nauseating to look at and is giving me a headache. This needs polish. After a lot of fiddling, we now have this. The camera now smoothly zooms out and in depending on the player's bounce. It looks a lot better, and it isn't making me vomit when I look at it, so it's a big improvement. Now time for some visual polish. I want to make it clear visually when the player nails a bounce. I often play games on mute personally, and I hate when the mechanical feedback is only tied to audio cues. Since one of my guidelines is no new animations, I figured the best way is just to add some particle effects. First, I added a star trail to the player. And then I added a confetti effect to the ground. I'm not totally happy with how it looks, so I'll maybe come back to it and tweak it some more later. But I'm now noticing that the camera isn't zoomed out far enough for the player to see the ground when the player reaches a bounce streak of 5. Time to tweak the camera some more. After a lot of tweaking, this is what the final camera system looks like. I'm very happy with it, and I think it strikes a nice balance between being smooth enough to not being noticed by the player, and quick enough to not be detrimental to gameplay. But as I'm now playing around with the bounce mechanic so much, I'm growing increasingly dissatisfied with the jump arc. I feel it needs more vertical velocity. After a lot of tweaking, this is the final jump arc for the bounce. The difference is pretty subtle, but it makes a huge difference in game feel. Now I've added a placeholder sound effect as well. I programmed it to rise in pitch in sync with the player's bounce streak. Obviously this sound effect sucks, but as a solo developer it's nice to have all the systems implemented first and then just swap out the presentation placeholders. This is true for both audio and graphics, and also I'm now starting to actively dislike the confetti particles, and I want to change them. I took inspiration from this screensaver on my living room TV. This particle explosion thing that they got going is pretty satisfying to watch, so I tried recreating something similar in my game. And here's the final result. We now have a bounce system where a skilled player can gain height and speed by timing their jump inputs carefully. It feels good and is satisfying to pull off, and it's all done with code and particle effects. This game is under development, so I would love to know what you think. Please leave any thoughts, feedback and opinions in the comments below. It doesn't matter if they're positive or negative, I appreciate any feedback.